Hey guys, what's going on? This is Sergeant Merrill, and we're going to talk a little Skyrim for a little bit. How's that sound? Actually, I got a lot of catching up to do with these videos because they're getting pretty far behind compared to what's going on as far as my Skyrim live streams. And you're not going to be able to see everything. I'm not going to show everything in this video that I did in the game. It's going to kind of be like a recap. So right here what we have is the first dragon fight, which was pretty damn awesome. This is the first time you actually go well, not head to head, you got a lot of people helping you out, but you actually fight a dragon, and you see just how powerful these things can be. And let me tell you, it's a really good thing that you're not fighting this thing on your own, because it would just wipe you out in a heartbeat. As far as what I recommend, you know, if you're an archer type character like I am, definitely use that bow. And if you see that he's just completely distracted, go in there with melee and just bust him up and just get right back out, because his fire spells, they're not too bad, especially if you have some fire resistance like I do. But his bites are, man, if you got the difficulty up high, it'll one-shot you. The bites are terrible, so stay at a distance whether you're using magic, archery. I mean, shit, even if you don't have archery, bust out a bow and just stay at a distance for this one, because it can quickly get out of hand if you're staying up close. Especially when you consider that, you know, you're only like, what, level 3 or 4 when you go against your first dragon? So you got to keep that in mind. You don't have a whole lot of resources at your side to use on this thing. So you can, look at that guy just standing there getting flamed. You can let them be the cannon fodder. And then when his health gets low, you run up, get the final kill, feel real good about yourself. That's what I did. Gotta say, it was pretty satisfying. Look at that. I took that dragon out all by myself. Anyway, after you kill him, you absorb the dragon's soul, which at this point doesn't mean a whole lot until you do the Greybeard's quest, I think it would call it. Let's call it the Greybeard's quest. We'll get to that later. Got a lot of footage for that. Had a lot of trouble going up that mountain. Anyway, you don't get as much loot as I thought you might, but it's still worth it. I didn't even pick up the steel battle axe because I was already weighed down. But the loot's semi-worth it. I don't know. It's not worth it to go killing dragons just for the loot, but you do get some ingredients that you're probably going to be using later on, like the scales. Anyway, after you kill him, you turn in this quest and you get this lady right here, which I was really happy about. Her name is Lydia. Now, Lydia is going to be a companion, like a henchman for you, and she's going to be extremely useful, but we're going to talk about what happened to Lydia a little bit later. After this, I did a lot of selling. I was feeling real cocky, you know, got a lot of gold under my belt, and I decided to just hit the wilderness, you know, see what I could find. And I came across this bandit camp, and it was actually a lot of fun. There was a lot of different types of enemies that I came across. You know, there was a melee guy right there. This mage woman was messing me up for quite a bit before I finally took her out. Which was fun, you know. It's fun coming across these different types of enemies, and mixing together some different playstyles, some different strategies to take them down, and then just collecting all the loot afterward. It was a lot of fun. So here I got to mix up some melee. I had to hide from the mage while my henchman took her out. And from here I just pinged everybody with arrows until I got all the way up to the top. Now sometimes you'll come across these type of, I guess we would say, forts of bandits, and the loot just won't be worth it. It won't be worth, you know, the potions you may have had to take, or just the time or the effort. But this one in particular was definitely worth it. I came across this weapon, which, hey, you know, some of you Skyrim veterans right now might not think this was worth it, but at my level, I thought it was pretty cool. It was the Lunar Steel War Axe. So I think I'm still using this thing because it's very useful at night, and I just find myself running around at night quite a bit. So I found that. Found quite a bit of other items up here that made the whole trip worth it, and that's one of the reasons I love Skyrim, is you can just wander out in the wilderness and come across these kind of things. So that's actually what I was doing for quite a while. I was just wandering around, coming across different strongholds and castles and just different events. There was an ice troll event that didn't end well, but then we came across this cottage, and I don't know what that guy was doing. But we came across this cottage, and I'm thinking, oh, cottage with chickens and plants outside. There's obviously an old lady in here that's going to give us a room for the night. And that was not the case. Here you see he brings his dagger out and he puts it back in for some reason. So I'm like, oh, maybe he's okay. But then suddenly, no, he was not okay. And he was actually a pain in the ass. And he was hiding around this corner. I couldn't get him with my arrows, so I had to bust out my axes here. And I'm really glad that shout worked on him, because if not, he would have put out some serious hell on us. Because he was just blasting both me and my henchmen. Luckily, that shout really comes in handy, the unrelenting force, because it, you know, I put him on his heels, and the rest of the time I was just able to keep him stunned with just attack after attack. So I was really cocky after killing this guy, you know, because I saw how hard he was. His first blast took out like a quarter of my health. So I'm like, all right, if I can take this guy out, I can pretty much take anything out. And boy, let me tell you, I could not have been more wrong. Because as soon as I left that cottage, I looked up in the sky, I saw this dragon, and I'm like, that's it. I'm Mr. Badass. I'm Billy the Badass. I'm going to take this thing out right now. So I got his attention. He came down, and it was one hell of a fight. And Lydia, God bless her, did her very best to tank this thing, but the thing eventually took her down. What happens with your henchmen is they'll get pounded enough to where they'll take a knee. And I saw that happen a couple times. I thought she went down at first, but then I'm like, oh, she's back up. Maybe my henchman doesn't die, which I thought was really cool. So what I was doing was just running around trying to avoid this dragon's wrath and waiting for her to get back up to tank it, and then I would go after it again. The problem is she only gets up 3 times, from what I saw. After the 3rd time, she was actually dead for good. And I would have reloaded it. At that point, I would have said, all right, that's not what I want to happen. You know, let me reload. Let me go back to a point and try this again. But what actually ended up happening is I ran away from it and actually ran back to the cottage, and I noticed something was going on. He was breathing fire at me, but it was hitting the cottage and it wasn't hitting me. So you can call this a glitch. I don't know. Maybe it's a good strategy when you're at lower levels and you find yourself going against a dragon. But I hid behind the cottage while he was doing his fire attacks, peeked around the side, shot an arrow, and just rinsed and repeat until I finally took him down and just was able to collect that loot from something that was obviously much more powerful than me, and obviously something I wasn't supposed to kill at that level. It was a pretty satisfying experience altogether, but again, I lost Lydia, and I'm not sure what that means at this point. I'm not sure how much of an impact she would have had later on in the game, but I decided to move forward with this outcome. And I want you guys in the comment section to let me know what you have decided to move forward with in the game that you weren't entirely happy with, but you decided to suck it up and take the consequences. It's one of the things I do enjoy about these type of games. But that's all I have for this video, guys. Until the next recap, this is Sergeant Merrill, out here.